1
My
million
God.
views! 1 million! Whoa!
That's actually true.
Hey! Boom!
All right. Go through tokens, try to spend as much as you can and find that 20% that will stick, because you don't know what the 20% will stick, right? Waste tokens, save time.
If you give me an unlimited amount of tokens, I don't even know where to go and spend them.
People are using token maxing as a vanity metric.
Maybe the bear case is actually stronger than the emotional casino that I would FOMO into because it's Elon, and I'm happy to pay the Elon premium. Coding an app is the new starting a podcast. We are 3 dudes. We just started a podcast.
It's incredibly reckless in this world to not learn AI.
And everything is code. I recently realized everything is code. Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of the God Mode Pod. This is episode 15. Today the docket is not that full, but we did get a new model from Claude Opus 4.8, and the environments have been improving a lot, and that's even more exciting than the new models that are coming out, because right now you can actually use the browser within Codex, and I've heard smart people say that this might be the new way that people are actually going to use the computers. They're going to be using their browsers within their agentic environments. But before we dive deeper into that, Luca, you've been away for a few weeks. What's up? Why have you been missing our episodes?
Yes, 2 weeks ago, I challenged myself to do 24 hours in Vienna with no money and no hotel and go to attend the Eurovision. That was the main event of that. I only managed 7 hours before I gave up, but I did walk 25 kilometers from the airport to the venue and had a good time. So that's why I couldn't make it that week. But yeah, last week we had a time zone mix up. I missed the episode with Dan, but I listened in on that. I thought it was a really good one. And I hope next time we get Dan around, I'll be here to join the conversation.
Well, the Vienna adventure sounded very fun. That's actually, I'm coming to Malta next week. Ben, when are you going to Malta?
I'm going on Wednesday, so less than a week. I'll be there too for the Gozo base camp. Yeah, currently in Mallorca, little island in Spain, and excited for the meetup. It's crazy, like 15 episodes later, and now we're finally doing this in-person thing that we've been kind of brewing about for a couple months now, right? So it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, so next week, Thursday, you guys are gonna be together, and then the week after, we're gonna have a full in-person interview or podcast. Nice.
Yeah.
First thing on the docket is Claude announcing Opus 4.8, and I don't know. I don't feel much excitement about this, to be honest. I've seen some people saying like, "Oh yeah, it's good, it's great, it does well," but I've also heard people say it's kind of slow, even though you put it on the fast mode. Why Opus 4.8? Why not Mythos? And
Yeah.
have we been using it, Ben? What do you think?
I haven't seen much of a difference. I think that this is more of a press release of the model while they were really kind of announcing this big raise, right? They raised money from tons of different investor firms, from Sequoia to Altimeter and others, and they just raised at a higher valuation than OpenAI. That's kind of the big story, I think. And then they threw in this Opus 4.8 as an after point. But if you look at the numbers, right, I don't know, 4.8 versus 4.7, it's, I guess agentic coding is something that you could take at face value by looking at the numbers, but really most people have just shifted towards vibes, because I know tons of people that are saying that GPT 5.5 performs better at a coding than 4.7 does, and these numbers show that it's like significantly worse, right? Like 6 percentage points lower. So the one interesting thing, I think they did release some sort of like parallel agent update to Claude, and what that will let you do is be able to basically launch, I think, up to like 1,000 agents at once that are all kind of dynamically working together to accomplish many tasks. And really, again, this just goes back to compute and the fact that Anthropic signed that deal with SpaceX that allowed them to get access to Colossus 1 and also part of Colossus 2. And this was probably a functionality of a feature, that a product that they've had on the docket for like months now, and they were just ready to now launch it because they have the compute to actually go about it. What this is going to let people do is spend way more money on tokens, right? So Anthropic, whatever their run rate is now, it is going to be insane in a month or two from now, because I heard something that maybe 5% of the top users account for 80% of the token usage on Anthropic. And these folks are now going to be able to deploy agent swarms, essentially, that go out and are on the extra high or max kind of Claude setting. And they'll be running all of these tasks agentically, and then come back at the end of a day, a week, or whatever, and say, "Hey, we just built this feature." Yeah, it's a huge unlock. It should be interesting to see how it works. I, for one, will not be using it because I've already heard that the token spend is insane from it.
It sucks your tokens up. Like it just burns through your tokens. I've not used this specific one, but on the last 2 weeks, every time, like the last 2 5-hour blocks before my week ends, and I still have limits left, I go and search what's the biggest task I can do to actually burn as much tokens as I can over the next 10 hours. And I've noticed that indeed, like by spinning up multiple sub-agents that then go do research either in your whole vault or somewhere else, so they spread out, go read everything. That's how you can actually burn like 2 to 3 million tokens in 15 minutes. And that's my main use case at the end of the week. Like, how to max out my tokens? Yeah, just spin up a bunch of sub agents. So now with this, it's even easier probably to max out. I've seen tweets indeed saying that people maxed out their limits within 5 minutes just by doing this. Which is great. Like every Claude release allows people to burn more tokens. That's great for the business and great for the valuations. Luca, you've been searching or like in a soul search about token maxing as well. What's your thoughts on these releases?
At the moment, I'm trying to spend as little as possible to get the most results. But I think your idea of having an end of week splurge is really good, because new features like this is something that you need to play with to understand how to leverage, and that's super valuable insights you can get for yourself to then be able to spend it properly in a use case that makes sense. So I think these new features, it would be great if people who are doing research and development had unlimited token spend to figure out these use cases in that sense. But from my side, I'm trying to do the opposite, which is looking at everything I spend tokens on and say, is it giving me a return? And if it's not, I'm cutting it out more, or I'm optimizing in that way. And then I'm also trying to think, okay, if I was able to do these things 3 months ago, why am I using the latest model to do the same thing that the model was doing just fine for me 2 months ago? So looking at things in that way, and thinking as well from an 80-20 rule, where it's like 20% of your effort is going to give you 80% of your results. And that's true in business for a person. So I think it's the same with the way you're using AI. You want to look for that 20% that gives you the 80%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have the total opposite opinion when it comes to this. I really do think token maxing makes sense when you're competing against people that are using like the frontier models, and you're using something that's, a Chinese model that's maybe 6 months behind. Just you're competing on something that's not necessarily 10% worse, but it could be like 100% worse, right? And you're moving slower than those folks. And going back to the 80-20 rule, like most of my day is just spent thinking about like asking the models like, hey, how can we improve? Like, what can we do from an SEO perspective? What can we do from like other marketing areas? And just like asking it to explore, just constantly pressing it and then challenging it and asking it if it's sure and all of that, right? So I'm of the notion, just go through tokens, try to spend as much as you can, and find that 20% that will stick, because you don't know what the 20% will stick, right? In business, like you try 10 things and maybe 1 or 2 of those things will work, the other 8 won't. So I fully just let Claude, go out and do its tasks. And, I've got my 3-4 products, and I'm consistently just like every day, every week saying, hey, how are we doing on this? How can we do better? Yeah, waste tokens, save time. I think Naval was saying he takes it to the next extent, where Naval was saying, he'll just like rip the same questions, the same workflows on every model at the same time, right? Because he just doesn't care. He's just like, okay, one of the models will figure it out the best, and then we'll figure out which one does it the best and go from there. So yeah, I don't know. There's different strategies, and I do think like token maxing is becoming a little bit of just like a quantitative like bragging rights, where like maybe that's not the right approach. But I fully give myself the liberty to say like, okay, just go out and just try a bunch of shit, right? Because that's what everyone else is doing.
But I
Especially
feel
if you're
like by optimizing what models I'm using for what task, it's giving me more budget to throw out even more ideas. Because
But
if I
here's
was
the
using
difference.
the best model for everything, every idea I had, I would waste too much to just build
Luca,
a simple
describe your
landing
use case.
page. Yeah,
Can
so
you
it's
describe
like
what model or what subscription are you on? What are you using it for, and which models you're using for what?
so I've got Gemini and Grok, which I find for much faster research. Like this is the top level research, you know? And then I would use Opus if I want to understand something really deeply and get like a bit more of a kind of an informed opinion. But if I'm just starting to research something, I don't need to go straight to PhD level. I can start a bit more basic, and I trust Gemini and Grok for that.
Are you using Opus on a subscription or on a token basis?
Both depends in which case, because I've got a Claude subscription, and then I've got the API hooked up to some apps in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Because
So I separate them. Yeah.
if I would be using Hermes agent, for example, I would be thinking like you're thinking. I would want to optimize my token spend for each task. But if I'm using my Claude subscription, which I pay $100 per month for, then I want to token max to the max. I want to spend everything I can, right? Like there's two different, and I understand both sides. Where like, yes, if I'm using my open router balance, and there's different models being used for different use cases, I'm not gonna say, hey, go out and spend as much tokens as you want. I want you to come back with like whatever, right? So
I think as well from this whole like trend of token maxing, I hate the concept of it, where it's like we will measure your success by how much tokens you're spending. And I'm like, yeah, that's just like trying to compare how many, just because someone turns up in an office from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. doesn't mean they give more results than someone who works from 9 to 2 p.m. And I'm looking at it in the same way, where people are using token maxing as a vanity metric to be like, look how much I create, when in reality is what you're creating useful is more important to me.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
But
that's
yeah,
where I
obviously
think
it doesn't mean don't experiment. Like, if there's new features, token max on the new features and experiment and be clear that that's what you're doing. I'm learning, you know. But
right.
to have it as a measure of productivity, I think is wrong inside of organizations, teams, and this sort of thing. A company obviously needs to have an R&D budget, and then they need to have an operations budget. But those are separate things, and confusing them, I think, is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think we were talking in the group chat a little bit about like a return on token spend. And when it comes to at least like how I'm spending my tokens on these, like, let's just say weekly optimizations, I'm always benchmarking it against something, whether that's Google clicks or whether that's Google ad spend or things like that. And I'm asking like, okay, based on the improvements that we just made in the last week, like, are we actually getting better? Are we getting worse? Right. And having that understanding is, I think, more important than just like maxing and just ripping tokens again and again, because you don't know, you might just be spinning your wheels and doing the same shit all over again. So
Yeah, true.
yeah.
I saw this tweet just to come have a quick touch point. Last one on the Opus 4.8, where we didn't really see much improvement on the model, but the one thing that was pointed out is that it feels like honesty and reducing hallucinations was the overarching focus for this release. Pretty nuts. And this is something we discussed previously as well, I think with the previous release, where we saw that Grok and Opus were the ones that actually had the least hallucination rates, where I think this was with the release of GPT 5.5, where 5.5 still had a huge hallucination, and the question then was, what model would you trust more to execute, right? One that hallucinates or one that actually gives you the truth? And there's clearly like a big improvement compared to Opus 4.7, going from 19.7% here on the dishonesty rate to 3.7. So maybe this has been the main improvement for Opus 4.8. It's not like this is a huge leap. It's not this is a crazy new model. It might be the PR thing that Ben said, but the dishonesty rate comes close to the Grok level now, which I think is quite impressive or also important.
Yeah, it's important. I also did see a shift when it came to 4.7 where Opus stopped doing things that it didn't agree with, right? It started like kind of pushing back and saying, "No, I don't think I should be like looking at Reddit. I don't think I should be looking at these sources." And my sense is that in Opus 4.8, that dishonesty rating is also going back to kind of feeding the loop and making sure that Opus, that model, will only do things that it thinks is, completely ethical and supported by its, its training partners essentially. But yeah, I think my guess is from 4.7 to 4.8, it was just like post-training, just giving it more data and saying like, okay, how can we refine based on what people were doing as opposed to like a full pre-training thing. And do we know, is Opus 4.8 like still a nerfed version of Mythos, or is it unrelated to Mythos? There's still so much
Interesting. Good question.
there's still so much murkiness in terms of like what these models are and how these models refer to the other model, this mythical model that we've been hearing about for almost 2 months now.
Like in some cases, GPT 5.5 outperformed Mythos, and then in the other cases it's not. So I guess it's probably a smaller or nerfed down model compared to Mythos, but like it has the capabilities. It's just they don't have the compute to run it or offer it to everyone. And like Dan said last week, might be just all marketing. Anthropic is great at marketing. Call it Mythos, don't call it Jack or Luca, right? There's the cost to run artificial analysis intelligence index, right? Like Claude or Anthropic models are way more expensive than GPT models to get to the same result at this point. So yeah, that comes down to the question again, like what models do you use for what, right? Yes, maybe that's where the 80-20 comes in as well, Luca, where you use your Opus for the 20% of planning, which it is the best at, but then you have GPT 5.5 executing, and it's like here, it's 40% cheaper, right? So then it executes, and it's better at executing because it doesn't ask you that much questions. It's
And
just a better
faster. The
executor,
speed
and it's
thing,
faster. Exactly.
maybe it's my impatience, but when I ask a question and it takes a minute and a half to reply, sometimes it happens on Claude. It drives me nuts. So I would rather I end up getting that same question, getting a response much faster from Gemini or Grok, and ending up having a conversation before Claude has given me a response.
Yeah.
And then I would still go back and check that response from Claude because I know it's probably going to be a bit higher quality. But was that additional quality really needed in that context? Yes or no? I don't know. I think most cases it's no, because they're becoming so much better. And I think that no is going to continue to increase as time goes by, and less you need to use a frontier for everything.
See,
but then this is what was mentioned in this Y Combinator video, that it was about the inference is going to become kind of something that is commoditized in some way. But yeah, anyway.
I think that people are still just going to be using the most frontier models for years to come. And I'll give you an example. The iPhone, we're on iPhone 18, right? And have you seen comparisons of images taken from the iPhone 18 Pro, the iPhone 17 Pro, back to the iPhone 12, right? The images really didn't vary that much, but people still want the newest iPhone for the newest photo that can be taken from it. people always just want like the best thing, even if it's marginally better than the next. And I mean, if I'm asking a question, especially, a more complicated one, not just like, what's the best restaurant nearby, I want to ask my smartest friend. I don't want to ask the friend that was smart maybe a year ago, but I've got new smarter friends that are now.
Mhm.
And I just think it's a psychological thing where people are always going to be wanting whatever that frontier model is. They're going to want to ask it, just like they want the new iPhone.
But you're not gonna ask your gym bro friend where is the best restaurant, right? So like for each specific use case, you're gonna ask a different friend. So in that sense, it's maybe a little bit different as well. Also, iPhone is a status thing. Like, oh yeah, I have an iPhone this, I have an iPhone that. Well, nobody sees which model I'm using behind closed doors, except for the result that comes out of it, right? So I don't always need the latest and best thing to get to my destination. Yes, if you're building state-of-the-art apps, tools, and everything, and you can continuously optimize, it makes sense to pay a bit more to get the frontier model. But if you're using it in your day-to-day workflows, then, in my opinion, you don't really need it.
Yeah. So then speed or some other metric needs to be more heavily advertised from like a Google or someone else, right?
This
Because
is why I think you can just bring it down to this metric return on token spend, because if you get the same activity and you track whether the same activity using 4 different models gave the same return on investment, or what you calculated for each one, if it was indistinguishable, the difference in the results to create an SEO landing page, and you compared which one ranked better and they all gave the same result, I mean, then you would be able to say, okay, it's fair to use any model for this use case. And I think that's what I want to be able to track better. It's like if I use Opus versus Sonnet to just write some basic copy, that has a certain purpose, is it going to really help me that much more than if I used Opus 4.8, And then I think that's where I'm trying to get at with using the different models. But there are some tasks which I feel are simple enough that you don't need the newest and the latest for the difference to be significant, or for there to be a difference at all. And I think that the smarter the models get, the more of these tasks can be covered by any of the model, and the less you would need a frontier model to actually do it successfully.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And this image here shows it very well as well, right? Where like we've been seeing with every company justifying spending 100K on tokens spent when only 18K even makes it to a stable production feature. In the rush to maximize AI token spend, companies are wasting 44% on bug fixes, which are created by AI as well, right? It's like bugs created by AI, and then 44% of the spend goes to fixing the bugs that have been created by AI. This like if you calculate this, 18% actually goes to a shipped product, 44% goes to bug fixing, 27% goes to rework, and 11% goes to reviewing. That's not very optimized way of working if this is the standard way of people token maxing. So there's definitely optimization possible.
well, so when a normal feature gets released in the old way, right? You had a developer, then you had a quality assurance team, and oftentimes you would have to rework it and have a second iteration of it. The spend still versus the development team, like the amount of features that are getting released now versus what a development team back then, it's surely more now. So I would question how different this is from what the distribution looked like 10 years ago when you had a QA team and the whole kind of product management team that was working along with it. And also the woman who tweeted this, I did look it up. She's like the founder and CEO of basically a company, Emergence AI, and or Intelligence AI, and they're basically she's strong arming her argument. Her
Yeah.
company is working in this field to try to alleviate this issue.
Yeah. Talking her own book, that's for sure. But it does kind of like prove a point as well of the token maxing. let's see what's the other one. But then it comes down to as well. Been touching on this before. What's the best way to spend your token budget? What's the best way to spend, right? Do you want to spend it on open source models and pay per tokens as you go? Or what subscription do you go? If you have $200 to spend, what do you go with? If you have 120, what do you go with? If you have 50, what do you go with, right? Ben and Luca, I want to actually hear from you both. What's your current subscription stack looking like? And are you happy with it, or are you thinking to maybe switch it around someday?
For me, I'm just with Claude. I should really try out Codex. That's probably on my agenda for when we meet up in Malta, is like getting into Codex and understanding, because it sounds like the application especially, and the fact that it connects Claude Code with Cowork in a way where you can work together, like that's exciting to me. But I'm of the notion like all of these tools are kind of the same. They're slightly different UI, UX, but Claude does a better job of, let's say, gamifying and helping the average like non-technical person being able to get into code. I think Claude has done the Claude app has done a better job at it. They had the remote control. They had all these features that now Codex is like slowly catching up to. But Dan Shipper, I know we'll talk about it, Rick, and this did resonate with me, was that Dan said the way Claude solves a problem is they're a junior engineer. They'll wrap a fix on top of it, as opposed to Codex having the conviction and the confidence of being able to totally remove the code and then replace it with a cleaner, less buggy version of it. And that aspect, to me, that was a light bulb where it's like, okay, we're going from like a junior dev to a senior engineer who understands the whole system, has the confidence of it, instead of Claude being way more, let's just say, timid and saying, oh, well, we know how to fix this in the easiest way that won't break anything, but it's not necessarily the best way, and it might lead to a lot of technical debt. So I'm still with Claude Code. I'm at the $200 month plan, and yeah, I'm gonna stick there for a little while at least. How about you, Luca? What are you? Are you still on Replit or
Still shipping with Replit? Yes.
all right?
Luca, what's your monthly spend on Replit now? I think you should really try $100 Codex or $100 Claude plan to just get your feet in the water, bro. Like it's been months.
I've used. It's true. Use them, but I just find it comfortable on Replit because it's just everything's on cloud. Their app works good on my desktop, my mobile.
The main benefit that I find from using Codex or Claude Code is that you actually can use it locally in my files, and I have everything on my device, and it runs around in my device.
Things on the cloud. I like it. It's for me. I prefer that it's all on the cloud. To be honest, like the only other thing I enjoyed using was OpenClaw. But then like OpenClaw and Hermes are a bit more kind of, you have to spend a lot more time optimizing and customizing them yourself. So I feel like Replit is almost that, but a closed version of it. I think it's pretty much, if you had to describe what Replit is, that's a good way to describe it. It's like a closed version of Hermes, where you have that company who's building the harness for you. Everything is hosted kind of on their own servers, and they take care of a couple of things as well. So like most people are connecting SAPA base and these things when it's creating their apps. I skip all of those steps because it's all set up already in their environment. So yeah, again, convenience and speed for using Replit.
Talking about return on tokens spent, can we talk about return on capital spent on the tools? Because I wonder, like, what's the margin you get from executing or using Replit, and then versus doing the same things on a Claude or Codex subscription? Because I think, like, the reason that I stopped using Replit,
I gotta calculate it.
The reason I stopped using Replit was because you pay a subscription plus you pay for each and every little call you make, and that's what I found like just not economically viable compared to the other tools out there.
It's true. I should analyze my token spend there and optimize it.
Right? Exactly.
Yes, it's true. I think again, the convenience has kept me in it.
So Rick, what are you on? You're just on Codex. You got off Claude Code completely?
No, I'm still on Claude Code, and I'm moving to Codex.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I've been using them side by side. I find myself like I still find myself using Claude way more because I don't get to my limits. I'm still on the $100 plan, and I feel like token maxing. I have to really go token max here, otherwise I'm wasting money and tokens. And then I have Codex, also usually always open, but not using as much yet because I still like I would max it out as well if I intensively use it. I'm only on a $20 Codex plan. I'm downgrading Claude to 20. I'm taking Cursor 20, and I keep Codex on 20. But I might, if I see that I'm using Codex more and the user experience is better, I might even cut off Claude completely and go full Codex, $100, and then my stack would be like it says here, $100 Codex and $20 Cursor, because I can still use Claude models within Cursor. So then for creative writing, I use Claude. For podcast clips, analysis, and captions, I would use Claude, but then all the rest is Codex. So that's like the two main use cases that I would use and the stack that I would prefer.
So if you're using like the Claude app or the Codex app today, and you only have one of those applications that you can open for like the next 2 days, which one are you going to open? Which one does it give you more satisfaction of building out that next, let's just say like feature or product?
Like I said, for the past few weeks that has been Claude, but if you ask me now and it's like, and I have unlimited tokens, probably going to be Codex.
Yeah. So unlimited tokens, Codex, but Codex is more efficient with the tokens than Claude.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the answer now is Claude because I have the most tokens in Claude to spend. That's why it's still Claude. But the user experience is not the best in Claude. It's just because it still has all my memory and it has all my projects and it has my pinned threads there, right? But those pinned threads, like, I'm only using the most recent threads anyway, so I can just leave that behind if I want to and get everything into Codex. Yeah, and that maybe comes to the next thing that we want to discuss is the future of how are we actually going to use development environments, or even what's going to be the super app. And this podcast that you referenced to, Dan Shipper, he was saying like everyone's going to be using their browser within Codex or within Claude Code in a year from now. And the combination of having your agents and your projects on the left side, and then, as you can see here on the right side, having your browser, that's going to be great. Like,
walk me through the use case, because I can, like, it's nice
okay,
that they're on the same
here
page.
is a use case. You are building something. You're building an app. You need the database, like you mentioned, Supabase, right? Now you're building this on the left side, as you can see. Hey, I'm building this app. I need a database. The agent then opens Supabase. You log in once to your Supabase, and boom, your Supabase account and login and everything is saved in the browser within Codex. Next project that you're building, agent needs a database. It can automatically open the browser and it is logged in there. You don't have to do anything anymore. So you can skip this whole going to Supabase, logging in, creating API key, all of that stuff. The agent can now do that. It's like websites are becoming agent first as well, right? Where like the apps of the future, the websites of the future, they're gonna have an agent onboarding. This was something that I took away from this podcast as well, where how you get onboarded now to an app is tell us about yourself, fill in this form, checkbox, where are you coming from, who are you? That might just shift to copy paste this prompt into your Claude or your Codex and then paste back what's the reply. Like, it's an agentic onboarding, and that was such an eye-opener for me. I think like that's how I want to be onboarded, and that's I think how I want to onboard other people as well, because then users don't have to think anymore. They can just copy paste something into the agentic environment that has all their information, and then just copy paste it back without any clicks, without any thinking. You have all the information you need to then set up this personalized experience that you were saying, Luca. The future of apps is going to be a personalized app for you. If you can paste a prompt into your Claude that perfectly describes you and your user behavior, Claude gives back your behavior described, and the app can just change itself how it's best for you. That's how I think it's gonna evolve over the next year. And this browser in environment is only a small part of that. That
So
was a lot.
the main use is that you give it access to your digital identity, essentially. So it needs to pull, like if you want your app to maybe go to your Twitter and send a DM, it would do that.
That could be something indeed. That could be a use case, but that's not the most valuable, biggest thing. I would never let an agent send tweets for me or send DMs for me. I would let it draft it, but I would not let it send it. I think like the most annoying part is this finding API keys, setting up Google Console, all of that stuff. Whenever I hate it, that's the task I see myself procrastinating, right? Like, it's like, build everything, and then it comes back with like, here's 3 to-dos for you. I'm like, fuck, to-dos for me, I don't like. Like, that's gonna be abstracted away now.
Not gonna lie, that's what Replit saves me a lot of time, like those extra to-dos, because they have
but also costs you a lot of money,
stuff
right?
outside the platform, inside the application. But besides the point, I'm trying to think of more of the useful parts of it, but
it's log in once and have everything in there. You're working in Notion, you're working in Twitter, you're looking at your bookmarks, your agent is looking with you. And then you're saying, like Twitter bookmarks, you have an article open, you're reading through it, you select it, you tell your agent, hey, this is interesting, save it to my brain, right? And it's just looking with you. You're working in Notion within your browser, you're typing your daily briefing or whatever. Agent is looking at you, you ask the agent like, hey, is this correct? Hey, have we worked on this before? Link me the documents that we've done before. Boom. Agent brings it to you because it sees what you're doing. That's, I think, like the main use case. You literally have a sidekick next to you, looking at you at your browser use and helping you to be like all the information that you've consumed, somehow bringing it to you whenever you need it.
Yeah, they basically just put Atlas inside of Codex, right? I do think that people generally want to separate their kind of personal consumption to like their working consumption, right? You don't want like the blue bubble, the iMessage to also be where you're, texting about like coworkers and all. Like you might want to keep that separate, whether that's in Slack or somewhere like that. So the next breakthrough to me feels like something where these browsers are able to really analyze your behavior, like down to the click, down to the scroll, down to all of these things, and understand how you interact with pages, how you scroll through Twitter, what types of accounts you interact with, and all of that. Until there's like a new model, I don't know if the LLMs are the right model for it. It might be some sort of vision model that's combined with like some sort of LLM. To me, that's like the next breakthrough that's needed for us to really be able to crack the whole computer use, browser use, because, I know that they're getting better and it seems like they're getting faster, but they're still not up to par where like, I don't know anybody who's like really using browsers with Codex or with these people to like actually do tasks. Not yet. I know.
Right?
And is it just a speed thing or is there something else?
I mean, how many times a day do you copy paste something or take a screenshot in a browser that you then send to your agent because you want feedback on it or you want more information on it, or you send a tweet to Grok and you say explain me this? What if you don't need to do that copy paste step or screenshot step and you can just say, and you just have the agent looking with you and then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that awareness, that understanding of what you're doing, you need to have like a deep understanding of what every click is needed for, and why am I copy and pasting this? The model basically needs to analyze every single thing you're doing. I don't know if these LLMs, as they're built, are good at that, right?
I
that
like
type
this.
of like
Interesting.
what was yeah.
I like this because what you're saying now, like for example, imagine that you have the LLM and you have the browser and you tell the LLM, register what I'm going to do now so we can turn this into a workflow. And then while executing this workflow, you'd also describe it by saying it. Then the LLM can actually register exactly what clicks are being done and why it's being done. And then you do it once and then you have the workflow built. right?
Yeah.
That would be awesome to have.
It would be awesome. Is there a lot of nuance there, or maybe there's not? Maybe it's just down to like analyzing every single click.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was what Clicky, Rick, you and I a couple weeks ago with Matt were looking at Clicky, and they were kind of trying to accomplish that of analyzing. And I would love to know how much data Atlas and ChatGPT or all of these like browsers are really collecting on the usage, because I think you need to have a deep understanding of how you interact with the computer to really be able to repeat that task consistently in a more holistic way, right? Yeah, sure, it can copy and paste things once, but like, how will it be able to analyze your screen and see, oh yeah, I know where this is going. We're gonna copy and paste this for you. Like, little banner comes up and says, I see what you're trying to do. Let's just speed this up. We can save you a minute right now by copy and pasting all this stuff in for you really quickly. Like that type of proactivity instead of just reactivity. That's where we need to go for these agents to really be able to help me while I'm browsing the internet.
But I think that's also where the tools are heading, right? The tools that we are using are not ready for that yet, but soon enough we can plug in an API key and the agents can actually do the steps for us. Like buffer scheduling of the clips, for example. Yesterday I opened Buffer and I get the pop-up that I can now link an agent with an API. So from now on I don't have to manually upload our clips anymore. Now it's actually Claude that's going to be doing this. So like it's the tools that are improving as well to then allow our agents to execute tasks. And I think it's a bit like it has to come from both sides. Tools have to improve, agents improving, and we're getting there. We're getting close.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Important for all companies is to see how can they adjust their business model to at least have an API available. For sure.
Over the past few weeks, we've been talking about GPUs and the shortage of compute, and how the GPU companies, specifically NVIDIA, had became the most valuable company in history. But at the same time, we see that GPU prices it looks like it peaked. This chart is the price of an H200 index, and it costs currently $4.11 per hour, where a few weeks ago the peak was $7 per hour for using a GPU. There has been some other, so you'll have to look on the screen if you're listening on Spotify. Go and watch this if you want to see the charts, but you can clearly see that it looks like GPU prices have sort of peaked. Ben, I heard you say that energy or compute is not going to go unused. Are we finally seeing an equilibrium where we have enough compute for the demand at this point? Or is what's the result of this?
Yeah. Well, my guess is that a lot of that is because Anthropic signed that long-term deal with SpaceX, and that alleviated a huge need that probably Anthropic was going to CoreWeave and these other hyperscalers to just say, hey, we need compute right now. Can we pay a huge premium for you guys to use it? And this aligns, right? It was kind of, mid-May when Anthropic signed that deal with SpaceX, and then ever since then it's kind of been going down. And I think also probably Cursor was part of that too. They were probably going to these hyperscalers and they were saying hey, we're at capacity. Can we use you guys right now? I'd love to, maybe we do this for next week, is see the difference between the spot price and how much it actually costs if you're running the GPU 24/7. It's probably so much more expensive to run it at the spot. But we'll, yeah, this trend is going to continue because we keep finding use cases for spending more money on tokens. And especially in Q1, that was really the breakthrough where everyone said that wow, this isn't just a farce, but AI spend is actually leading to productivity gains in our organization. Yeah, that'll continue. It looks like, yeah. What do you see here, Rick, with the GPU?
H200 GPU rental cost range from $140 to $450 per hour, but that's what the exact image here says with the index as well. price breakdown, the providers, lowest spot marketplaces, blah, blah, blah. Context. So it doesn't really say. Yes, but what is the real cost of running it? What do these providers pay for running these GPUs per hour? The real underlying cost for providers to run an H200 GPU is roughly close to $2 to $3 per GPU per hour at high utilization.
Let's try to just back a math calculate this. I think Anthropic is paying SpaceX $1.25 billion a month, right? So 1250000, a lot of zeros. And then I think that the Colossus One is 100,000 GPUs. Let's just say 200,000 GPUs. So then that gets you to $6,200 per GPU per month. And then how many hours are there? How many hours are there in a month?
How many hours?
Yeah, 30 times 24, right? So
Yeah.
720. So that divided by 720. So this is saying $8. That would calculate $8. So
That's what
Anthropic
Anthropic
was
is paying SpaceX.
paying SpaceX $8 per hour to run one of their GPUs per hour.
That's like buying the top. Elon
Yeah,
got the
it
good,
is.
like Elon really has the deal here. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then like thinking
Could
about
it be
it,
just the top for these particular models, and maybe there's other models which are not going down?
Well, this isn't models. These are the GPUs, right? So the H200. This is like how much it costs to rent one of those GPUs for an hour, basically.
Yeah, like the H200s. I mean, like it could be like maybe there's new kinds of
yeah, but there isn't many of those. That's the Blackwells, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
There's a big shortage
Blackwells are
of.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's mainly the H200s, I think.
Yeah. Because I think the Colossus has the H100s. Anyway, but it's interesting here because there must be like at some point if this keeps dipping, right, it might be more valuable for these data centers to actually go and mine certain cryptocurrencies than to provide it to AI models. Imagine that suddenly compute gets off the AI model provider market and starts going to mine Bitcoin again because the AI models could, like, it just doesn't make sense to pay. I don't know. Is this a market on itself? It's quite interesting to think about it. But I'm not too deep into those numbers.
Are people? Yeah, I wonder how. Like, are people going to be able to trade this? Is this something that you can trade and speculate on?
Probably.
Yeah. I would buy this for sure.
Can I speculate on the H200 index per hour? Is there a poly market for this? Can you please check this? Poly market. Let's see. Yes, you can speculate on the H200s and similar hourly rental prices right now. There are active prediction markets on Polymarket. Let's have a look. So here is the Polymarket where we can bet on GPU rental prices. H200 hit what price by May 31st? Huh.
It's not really traded though.
Yeah, it's not a lot of volume, but yeah, hey, that's a fun thing, no? Wait, yes is for 94 cents and no is 94 cents? How can we profit here? They're both 94 cents? So, like, you're gonna lose guaranteed, no?
Yeah.
Or win guaranteed. What's the order book? Yeah, there. But yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, so people expecting prices to go down. That's like the commoditization of compute happening in real time, right? Let's move on to SpaceX. First of all, I saw this tweet where the early employees of SpaceX are all going to become multimillionaires. SpaceX millionaires, 4,000 times 1 million, 400 times 100 million. Every employee who joined before the first successful launch made, unless they sold early, more than $100 million. SpaceX lists in June 12th at 1.75 trillion. Work backwards from the cap table at 1.75, clearing 100 million takes 0.0057 of the company. That's crazy. Such a small percentage. But yeah, that's like a few new millionaires and 100 millionaires in the US. Imagine joining SpaceX in the early days. Luca, you've been eyeing the SpaceX IPO. What's your thoughts there? You buying or you're waiting?
I'm going to split, so I'm going to buy a bit in the first 2 weeks, and I'll buy a bit more when prices stabilize, because I'm curious what's going to happen with after the IPO. I'm going in for a long hold anyway, so I feel like the price I get in within that first 6 months to a year is going to be good, no matter in the next 5 to 10 years either way. But I've just noticed that there's new regulations in the US that's affecting all IPOs, and the first one is going to affect is going to be Starlink. And what they've done is they've shortened the time when institutions can put in their investments from, I believe it was 3 months to now 15 days. And they've also reduced the float that a company needs to have actually traded for that to happen, where before I believe it used to be 15 or 20%. And in SpaceX's case, it's just 5%. So those two factors, to me, it seems like there's more liquidity coming in earlier into an IPO and less availability of shares to take up that liquidity. So I don't know. I'm not an expert, and it's not financial advice, but those factors to me say, yeah, that's going to pump the stock up, kind of, because there's all of that institutional money that's going to come in after 15 days, and there's less than usual availability for it. So that's why I want to get in before the 15 days. But normally, typically, IPOs crash after the first month or two, is what usually happens. Because people are kind of exiting their positions. Maybe they've been there for some years. Previous investors want to cash out at their targets. So yeah, that's why I'm going to split my investments, because I have this little thesis that I want to go forward through, but then I'm going to hedge my bet and keep some the 50% of what I want to invest to put in at a later date when I think things have stabilized.
Mm-hmm.
Which they're not going to stabilize, because I think for 5 years the stock is going to go up and down like crazy until maybe we have the first gigawatt of compute in space, and then it will be like, wow, this is actually working. So yeah.
I think we have an extreme issue with having an idea of the actual size of $1.75 trillion. I think that's like, even if we're talking about the original float is only going to be 5%, I think that's what you're going to see here. The tradable float is 62.5 billion on day one. That's a lot of money. That's the market cap of Solana, right? Like that's what we're expecting to like, and buying pressure. Yeah. Yeah, like the low float could be a benefit in seeing the price pump. That's like some financial engineering indeed that's needed to make the price go up early, but even then, like, it's a huge size that we need, right?
It's also the retail heavy.
It's not, because some of the institutional money that's coming in is basically pension funds in the US and this sort of thing, which automatically flow into companies that are on the S&P 100 or 500. So 62 billion, when you compare it to that amount of institutional money, doesn't sound like a lot to me. But then when we're thinking that people from around the world are actually interested in this stock too, I don't know. It might be naive to say it's not a lot, but it doesn't feel like a lot.
Ben.
I was just gonna say the retail heavy allocation is the interesting part, because Elon has a premium, and that premium is just loved by retail, right? They believe into Elon and the narrative that he's going to be able to bring these GPUs into space. Michael Burry, on the other hand, and like a lot of institutions, and call it the sharps and smart money, have always been very skeptical of Elon's success. But I mean, he has proved us right time and time again, although his deliverable, his hitting the deadlines has not been his forte. but 30% allocation to retail is way more than is normal. I think I read somewhere that 5% is usually the normal retail allocation. It's 6 times as many.
Yeah. The Elon premium. I'll start. I've done a deep dive into this to get some numbers aligned that we can walk through. And please stop me if you have any comments on each of them. But comparing the upcoming 3 IPOs that are coming, SpaceX first, OpenAI next, and Anthropic then. They're collectively aiming to raise $550 billion. That's 3 IPOs coming in 2026. If you take the raised money of all the US IPOs combined from 2015 to 2025, the past 10 years was 450 billion, right? So SpaceX is going first. They're going to raise money. That's going to suck a lot of liquidity out of every other stock or people. Like, cannot expect that there's like 85 billion sidelines to throw into this. So that's just a raise. That's before it hits the market, right? Then also, so the retail bit, we're expecting that after that raise, there is going to be another 85 net buying pressure coming in to make the stock go up. Just this that's number one. Scary. Then SpaceX wants 100x revenue, Nvidia trades at 25x, right? So at the current at the 1.75 trillion valuation, that's 100x revenue. Compared to Nvidia at 25, Tesla at 16, Alphabet at 11, Apple at 10, Meta at 7, Amazon at 4. And we are talking about buying at 100x revenue. Yes, the TAM might
Amazon
be
is looking like a good buy right now.
right.
It's looking like a good buy, especially when you see Blue Origin. Okay, it exploded. For me, that says they're working. You know, it's not that they're gonna fail. Yeah, I might just go buy some Amazon.
So like here it also says even the Elon premium on Tesla only buys you 16x multiple on revenue, where SpaceX is asking 6x premium on top of Tesla premium, right? Insane. So that's another number where I'm like, whoa, okay, maybe this valuation at this point might not really be backed by fundamentals. Yes, Elon premium, fine. Then the S1 quietly turned SpaceX into an AI company. The part that's like SpaceX itself, Space, Launch, and Starlink is only 5.5 trillion of the TAM that they address within the S1. The total TAM they claim is 28.5 trillion. Okay, think of that number. On next slide, I'll show you what that number actually means. But so the space part is only 5.5 trillion that they value. So you say the data centers in space, and we're gonna expand. The main TAM is AI. So it's serving AI users, it's serving SaaS applications, and that's the TAM that they see. It's like, because AI agents grow, like you have the Metcalfe's law, where like it's a network effect, and then agents are actually like double that, like it's exponential of the exponential. And that's what this value is based on, that they're gonna serve the future of AI. The Rocket Company is being sold as the world's biggest AI enterprise software story, right? It's the story of AI enterprises. Thinking about this then, fundamentals, 700 billion worth at this point with the current businesses, and then the Elon premium would be $1 trillion, which is kind of crazy. These are the values, right? Like if Starlink currently is worth 150 billion, the Launch is worth 300 billion, XAI is worth 160, Cursor is worth 60, X is negligible, and then others 27 billion. So that's a fundamental value, and then you pay $1 trillion extra in value for the Elon premium, and then that comes down to still paying 25x revenue, right? Next, the insider unlocks that you didn't touch on, Luca, which scares me. Because of the low float, that means there is a bunch of float coming on the market over the next year. You go from 5 or 10% to 100% tradable, right? And you're going to see like on day 45, 20% comes on the market. On day 90, another 7% comes on the market. On day 105, another 7%. And the ladder goes up. So these people have been in. You saw this tweet about the millionaires, the people that have been working at Tesla, at SpaceX for the last 25 years or 15 years or whatever, right? That's 100 million for a few people. That's 10 million for another few. That's for all the early investors. They want to get out as well. They need some liquidity. So that's selling pressure that some buyer needs to absorb to keep the price going up. I've seen in crypto, I've done a bunch of launches that selling pressure is very hard to absorb, and especially the bigger the size. And we've never seen an IPO of this size, right? So that's billions of dollars that got to continuously buying, and that might be these pension funds, that might be the indexes. We don't know yet, but that's another red flag that scares me a bit. Then if you think including Elon, but he's not going to sell, right? Then we get to the 100% here. Anyway, next. So only 3 to 5% trades on day one, 60 billion chasing a 1.75 trillion cap. This is a benefit if you want to pump the price indeed. Low float, small inflows can pump the price, but then next is also, like a little calculator, how we can see how much is needed, how much net buying is needed to actually multiply. So what value are what value are we expecting this to go to? Are we looking at a 3 trillion valuation? Then we need 63 billion to 250 billion in net buying value.
Yeah.
If you get a net buying of 20 billion, the 5 billion to 20 billion,
6%.
then you get a 6% gain, right? But like I've heard people say, well, we might see the stock going to 5 trillion. Then you need 160 billion of net buying. That's like more buyers than sellers. That's an insane number. That's an insane number. So like, I don't know, like I was originally thinking, yeah, maybe it runs to 3, maybe it might run to 5, touch 5, but thinking about all these institutions that bought before, and then doing some research into when do banks actually sell their stuff, when do they take profit? On a cold IPO, they take profit at 20% gain. On an average IPO, they take profit at 17%. On a hot IPO, around 40. But so like, yes, even if it might run to 2.5 trillion, then the institutions start selling. And that's selling pressure that you got to absorb as net buyers to keep the price going up. So these are just all little signs that make me think maybe the bear case is actually stronger than the emotional casino that I would FOMO into because it's Elon and I'm happy to pay the Elon premium. And last but not least, it's the TAM, the addressable market that SpaceX is targeting, where they base their valuation on, right? If you compare the current TAM of SpaceX that they mentioned in the S1, SpaceX TAM 28.5 trillion, USA GDP 31 trillion, China GDP 19 trillion. So SpaceX TAM is bigger than China. SpaceX TAM is also bigger than Nvidia, Germany, Japan, UK, and India combined. If we then look at it, right? The Starlink TAM on itself, and this makes sense because it serves the world, is bigger than the GDP of UK. All right, that's not bad. But like just comparing all of these, I don't know, man. It's just like, maybe it's a bit extended. Yes, Elon Premium is cool. But is it worth more than the whole GDP of the US? What they're trying to serve? Like, a lot of things need to go well.
Very good questions. Yet yesterday I was listening to a podcast, again, Diary of a CEO, and they found that permits in, I think it was Alabama, or they were being shut down to construct data centers in the US. Part of that campaign was actually allegedly being funded by the Chinese as well. I think this not in my backyard factor for data centers is actually a big thing. So that's again part of the thesis here is Sure, you're comparing SpaceX to the size of countries, but at the end of the day, they're going to space. So they can realistically expand that large. And if we look at history, if you look at maybe, the East India Trading Company, that was multiple times larger than any nation at the time. And it was a private company exploring the new world. So yeah, I guess these are this is the storyline, and this is the ambition of this whole IPO. I personally find it all super exciting, and I want to get in on it because I am invested in the vision just as much as I want a return on my investment. But yeah, it's for me again. I think your analysis here is very, very correct. I think getting in the first year is super risky, maybe a bit stupid as well, especially if you need that capital for in the next 5 years. But if it's something that you believe in and something that you want to actually see happen, this is your way of participating. And I think that's why I would like to get in, and I'll hedge my bet over there.
Yeah.
But looking at the charts, then it makes me think that maybe there's a little opportunity if you were like a bit more of a trader to get in before the institutional money comes in, because that's on the 15th day going to put in between 15 and 27 billion. And the first kind of releases from the shareholders comes after 45 days, according to your chart. So there is a small period between the institutional money coming in and the float increasing from 5 to something to 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'll point out is the revenue numbers in this. I think, Rick, you maybe token maxed at the end of the week when you had some extra tokens, but the revenue numbers that it pulled were kind of last year, right? And I think last year they did 18 billion in revenue, but that's before all of these different data centers kind of emerged, and this whole EWS, Elon Web Services narrative took hold, right? Because think 1.75 trillion, divided by 100, that gets you to $17.5 billion. But the Anthropic deal alone, they're getting 15 billion a year from Anthropic, right? So I think SpaceX's revenue this year is probably going to be 30 to 40 billion, not 18 billion, which is kind of the 100x multiple. So then that brings you down to 50x revenue, which is more palatable than 100, but it's closer to Nvidia land, right?
Yeah, and I also honestly think that this data centers in space is a great story, but I want to see it first. Like it's kind of like the Tesla Roadster. I mean, have we seen that car yet? It's been
No,
in the making since the start of Tesla, right? But that's so like I don't know. Like yeah, we've seen some satellites being sent out of the Starship, and yes, we are thinking about like this super reusability. Like within an hour, we can resend a Starship to space, but it doesn't look like we're there in the next year or two yet, and that's kind of needed.
No, for sure not the next year or two. Like, how long do you think it will take for the first gigawatt in space? 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah, right.
If they make it in 5 years, I think that's a huge feat.
So like, I think
there's things that are unknown because you need to put the equipment up there. You don't know how often it's going to break down. You need to figure out how to repair things when they break down. So there's a lot of challenges that they're going to have to go through. I just think that the ultimate upside is so big that we're not going to have enough energy and space on Earth for us to reach the demands of compute for the future.
So do you think the upside is huge from a $1.75 trillion to 15 trillion? Or do you think there is better opportunities in other space-related stocks that are maybe manufacturing the parts that go into these data centers in space? Because if I think about multiplying my money, I think that's where the opportunity actually is.
Yes.
Not in the giga crowded trade that all the retail and I also want to be invested in the story. Like, don't take me wrong. I will probably buy some SpaceX just to be part of this once in a lifetime thing that's happening of we are going multiplanetary, and the guy that's leading this whole thing is only going to get his shares if they get 1 million people on Mars, which I don't think ever is going to happen. But yeah, like, I want to be part of that story, right? And it's maybe the FOMO speaking here as well. But I think if you want to multiply your money, there's other better ways. That's the end of the story, I think, of my case. Yeah, I did enjoy it though. I did enjoy getting this all together, and it gave me
No,
some.
it's super good research. Like,
So yeah, I need any last points on the Elon SpaceX before we go to like some quick, like 2 or 3 quick ones. No.
No, I'm good.
Then next, quickfire round. We had Pieter Levels posting, and he's been posting quite a lot. And Luca, you shared one of these tweets as well earlier this morning in the WhatsApp group. But he got kicked off Google Maps for being honest, and we come down there to Google banning bad reviews and Google stealing your app ideas and all of these things. Do we need an X Maps with real reviews? Elon Musk is the question here, is how he answers tweet. Luca, what's your thoughts on this, on the whole Google Maps, Pieter Levels, all of these?
yeah, see, the thing is, these platforms are hard to manage because you have real reviews, you have fake reviews, and I get, as a business owner who used to rely on reviews, sometimes you would have competitors who would write things, or you would have, just difficult people in general, or maybe someone had a bad day and, they write a review, and it can really affect your business. So I get why they defend business owners. But yeah, he wrote some funny comments. Like, there was one person who was like, hey, some people give me a bad review because my waitress doesn't smile. And he's like,
Yeah,
maybe you should have more happy baristas,
that was a good one. Yeah,
But yeah,
okay. Let me just pull up another one that's
he's
very
building some products as well, which are trying to tackle this for hotels and
Uh-huh.
this sort of thing, which TripAdvisor was supposed to do that, right? But
What is this British
do we
sandwich
even
bar?
need review websites anymore? Like, I just ask AI, like, where should I eat?
Right?
Read the reviews for me. But
Yeah,
Which
but
AI
honestly,
it reads the reviews, right? So
yeah, exactly.
there's the importance of the internet before 2021 is just growing and growing, right? In that Dan Shipper podcast, they also talked about how people are trying to buy up code that was created before 2021 as well, because they can validate that it was real code generated by real humans. And similarly, even with like reviews, it's so much more important. Like the dead internet theory today is basically alive and well. You don't know what's on the internet. The only thing you know is, did it exist 5 years ago? If it existed 5 years ago, then there's a chance that it was actually real.
Situation detected. Something has been going viral on Twitter as well, talking about token maxing. One company accidentally spent 500 million in a single month after failing to put cloud licenses for employees. After everyone was guessing which company is this and how is it possible and who the fuck has a credit card that can spend 500 million, it came out that this was actually Amazon was the company. But yeah, the mindset so far has been token maxing. This creates the wrong incentive
So
for
then Jeff
using AI.
Bezos was like, oh, we need our data centers in space. This is too much.
Let's send the
Boom.
rocket faster, guys.
Exactly.
Let's go. Let's just quickly watch a video as well. Blue Origin explosion. And then there is this, I really thought this was Elon's secondary account, Adrian Dittman.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
I legit thought this was Elon's second account. And
Yeah,
I
me
still
too.
sort of believe it. But it's like, rockets are hard, man.
So, is anyone gonna fly with Blue Origin in the next few
No.
years?
Fast. But everything is fine. Nobody died in this. It was the biggest ever explosion in a controlled environment. And I think it came quite close to the Hiroshima bomb. Something like that. That's some stats that I read as well, which is interesting.
Looked like it.
Uh-huh. Well, it was news of the day. This one is funny too. If you hear it.
I would legit go to a bunker. Yeah, I would not be filming if I saw that. I'd be like, oh my god, that's nuclear.
We have a new section of the podcast, the content of the week. And for content of the week from Luca is YC Paper Club in Mountain View. So I'm going to have him share what's interesting about it. And I'll also share my content of the week after.
So the best part I think about the internet today is stuff like this is being published online. This is some of the world's best researchers. Everyone inside that room had over 100 citations. Many of them have raised millions, but they were very technical people. I was listening to it last night. It was the first one that I actually was able to understand a little bit, but it all felt way too advanced for me. But one of the first paper was talking about inference and how that's going to be scaling up, and it's going to become something that is used. I can't even explain it, to be honest. It was beyond me. But yeah, I would need to listen to it again to digest it. But it does show that there's a lot more improvements to come in the AI world. The Silicon Valley is still the place for that. So it was nice to kind of have this insight into what's going on there.
Okay, yeah, I'll listen to it. Interesting. I'll share my content of the week that has been addressed.
Yeah.
We refer to it twice in this podcast, and it is this episode of Lenny's podcast. PMs and designers are about to win the AI era. This is where I got inspiration of where agentic and apps are going to, the super app of the future. Basically, he discusses this also, like the onboarding, agentic onboarding, and what to build, how to build, the future of designers and the future of PMs. Very interesting podcast, amazing podcast. I would definitely go and listen to that. If you finish this one, then go listen to that one. Ben, do you have anything to recommend?
I listened to that as well. That was the best thing I listened to all week. Dan Schipper, and he called out something that he was saying that, buy SaaS products. The SaaS apocalypse is overrated. And I've been kind of saying that myself, and I've really come to that conclusion. This week especially, I'm just I'm going through these really like edge case bugs that are specific to certain devices and certain operating system versions and all of that, and it made me realize again and again that people probably want to pay for something that's just going to solve all of these complexities. And so he mentioned that. He also did say that he thinks the best products are the ones where humans and agents can work harmoniously together, right? People are willing to pay for that type of synergy. Because yes, you can vibe code something that's like an application, but how can you vibe code something that allows an agent and a human to be able to work together? Like that type of solution is probably the best bet into where you should be allocating your time together, whether that's building some sort of buffer solution that lets, agents be able to post to all these different channels, whether that's, something like more in the physical world where these agents can talk to humans and reach out to them, but then come back to the manager. There's going to be a manager, and then there's going to be these agents, and that kind of management agent relationship is not going anywhere anytime soon. That's kind of the conclusion that I came to from that podcast.
Yeah. The more and more I'm trying to token max as well, I find that I am the bottleneck. If you give me an unlimited amount of tokens, I don't even know where to go and spend them. So I feel like, sometimes I am actually the bottleneck. if the AI can just self-improve itself and all the products that I'm working on then would be great, and that I'm just the orchestrator. Because at some point it gets messy, and then indeed if you work hand in hand with the AI, and the AI proactively can also suggest you what to do, that's how we can actually move forward and token max even more. And yeah, that's what we love to do, right? Luca, last words.
Should we do a little science corner? I'll do it fast.
Oh, science corner, yes. We have the science corner. How could we forget that? Go ahead.
It's okay. Yes. It's letting me share screen. Okay, man. Screen. All right. Let's go. This is what I learned this week. So, super cool stuff about DNA and how it's processed. Can you guys read it properly? Yeah, it's good enough. Or should I?
No, you
maybe...
should. Can you create an artifact? Or yeah, do it this way. Yes.
Yeah. Can go full screen.
If you click next to copy the arrow, then publish as artifact, and you can open in browser.
Let's do that.
Yes.
So, as you guys may remember, I am looking into how we can work with AI and our own DNA data. And what I learned this week, this thing's still letting me scroll down, so I can only...
Yeah, you can maybe pull it with your mouse. No, it's not working. You can just use the previous screen that worked.
Science corner, la la la. Okay, Jesus, how this works? No.
You can't scroll there too.
Claude is such a scam.
It's broken, my Claude. No. So I don't know why I started letting me scroll here. And I was.
Just explain.
All right. So, what I learned this week, essentially, I've been looking into how to work with your own DNA and using AI to analyze it. So, what I had to do first is to get an overview of understanding on what kind of data you receive when your DNA gets passed through whole genome sequencing. And what I've learned is that initially, the data they get out is actually kind of a bit dirty, because it will be maybe partially correct, where they're giving you the A's, the T's, the S, like the code of your DNA, but there will be some misinterpretation. And then they actually already use some kind of machine learning AI to make a prediction on whether that letter is correct or not. And they assign a confidence score, a probability to it. So then what you get next after you have that is the BAM file. So the first file is the FASTQ, but then you get the BAM file. And that is actually processed. So it's that initial dirty data processed with the quality score. And then
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is that data dirty because it comes out of Uranus?
Well, if that's where you want to get your DNA sample from, I can stick a swab on your anus, yes. We might have some contamination there. You need to fast for 6 days before. And then once you have that BAM file, it's got your full data over there. So what you then do is you compare your DNA against a master file. And there's many of these open source master files that exist. And the next file that you get would be the VCF, which is basically just comparing which parts of your DNA are different to a reference sample. And that allows you to then narrow down and be like, okay, so I actually have these variations in my DNA that vary from the norm. And once you then get those variations and you annotate them and you label them, then that becomes the final result that you can kind of see what's unique about your DNA. So it's really interesting, because there's, at each step of the processing, the analysis, you can apply AI in some way, whether that's kind of to help to process the data or to understand the data. So yeah, I'm still waiting for my DNA data to arrive. It's being processed by a lab, but I've already been able to download some open source DNA and start seeing where I can feed it and what I can do with it. So far, really exciting, at least
So
for me.
these analysis, so it's like basically you compare to the baseline DNA and then you see what is like where you have a difference from the baseline DNA, which is the average of the world, I guess.
That's the thing. So there's no average of the world, but you find a healthy specimen and you see what's different, and that could allow you to identify what mutations you may have. And those mutations may just be, in a different eye color, but then maybe it could be, a genetic predisposition or something like this. Then there's also catalogs that you can already reference of certain diseases or traits that you can check if you have any of these similar alleles. Yeah, that's
Okay,
it's
yeah.
so yeah. We still don't understand what most of your DNA is done and used for. So even in the actual analysis and identifying what genes have functions for is important. And that's the basis for us discovering new medications, cures for diseases, and this sort of thing.
Okay, I'm excited to learn more over the next Sign Corners when you're learning more, and also how your
Sure.
DNA changes from the baseline or is different.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you guys know where I'm actually from.
Yeah. All right. This was a great episode. I am the greatest moderator. This was a great episode, guys. Thank you very much for joining and sharing everything. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
See you next week. Bye.
Coding an App is the new starting a podcast. We are three dudes. We just started a podcast.
It's incredibly reckless in this world to not learn AI.
Everything is code. I recently realized everything is code. Luca, what are you predicting?
Underwater drones run by Pico Claude.
Okay. Wow, bombshell. Using AI to write your prompts, bro. Come on. I am the greatest moderator in the world, and we see you guys next week. Love you, besties.